All right, let's knock it out the park.
No problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited, man. When I first started doing this, there was a couple of people that I had in mind that I admire, that I think are have these creative minds. And just to be fully transparent, Jeff is somebody that I know through a mutual friend that over time I've considered somebody that I'm really cool with down here. Just you meet unique people in your life, and then you run across somebody that even stands above them in the way they think. Some of the things I want to talk about with him is today's. I have a pleasure of bringing somebody I admire, someone who I consider an artist. He's an author, producer, director, and relationship dating coach. When I first started interviewing people, I found it interesting, and he was literally at the top of my list. Because now I'm on a journey of writing, and he's somebody that I've known as an author, and he doesn't really know, but I've dabbled in some of his books. It's a genre that I'm very new to. A book about the horror in Harlem. When I read some of it. What was that called, Jeff? The shake, the earthquake. Oh man, I can't remember. I read a piece. I was like, wow, this is some interesting. Harlem Shake. I actually read that. I don't know if I told you that. I've actually read that. That's actually a really good. And it's crazy because they have like these political undertones, these social justice they have these different that if you don't really understand the genre, you can still kind of get the gist of what's going on. But I'll digress. I won't go too far into that. We're gonna have plenty of time to address what he has going on, because I really want to highlight his genre and the area that he emphasizes when he writes. Only because I think it's an underserved community, and I think that people that haven't had access to it, once you do, will dive headfirst and go down his rabbit hole. And he's going to be one of the leaders in that area. Now, I'll allow him to speak more on that. But the reason I wanted to talk to him, like I said, is I'm on a journey writing a book. And I had a conversation with a friend, and she's like, why don't you talk to Jeff? And the truth was, I've talked about this publicly before. I really suffer from this thing called imposter syndrome. I always say I'm the guy that misspells everything on Facebook, So when it came time to approach somebody who I consider a writer, an author, somebody who does this, I was very insecure about my approach and what I had to offer the conversation. Well, let's just say, ladies and gentlemen, that was put to rest yesterday after just a brief 1 hour conversation. It was really put to rest. So I want to introduce you now. Jeff, how are you, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. It was definitely a pleasure talking to you yesterday. And I know you said, man, we should have just taped yesterday. And,
exactly.
And I know I have the same information in my head, and I'm the same person. I'm just going to try to be as transparent as possible. I always get mindful of, the things that you say. This culture can cancel you, and they try to hold it against you. But I try to be as honest and as appropriate as I can. If I say PG-13, people think I'm censoring my words, but I'm just a very courteous person. So right. I can curse you out without cursing at you. You know what I'm saying? I'm a school teacher, but a lot of people think you got to go full out Samuel Jackson just to be real. Oh, I like the way, who was it? Tommy Lasorda died yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that they said about him is he told you how he meant, how he felt, how he really felt. And that's just coded for being colorful. You know what I'm saying? Barack Obama can tell you how he really feels too. You know what I'm saying? It's just that he uses words that you got to understand the meaning of. So for me, as a person that doesn't go Samuel Jackson, or I watch, how often I curse, I'm going to try to be that type of person for you today. I'm going to say everything I mean. It may not be expletives, but I'm going to say what I mean, and let's go.
That's all we could ask for. That's all we could ask for. I want to start. Where we started yesterday, man. When I called you, it was really for advice at what my next step should be with this book that I finished.
Right.
I have some access this to a couple different people. I reached out to a couple different companies, and you dropped some jewels on me, and you were very clear about, hey, Mike, this is what I do. I don't want you to exactly follow what I do because, but these are the things that have been successful. These are the things that haven't, and you were very honest. What I want to talk about is something that we dove into, which was that kind of gave me some reassurance when I was telling you that I go through these very deep insecurities about what I write and what I do. And you were saying that that's a natural process when you're in it and that you've actually gone through something similar. Can you elaborate on it? Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I hate to coin things and say, yo, this is how it always is. I'll just say this is how it is for me and many of the people that I've come into conversation with, right? When I write, I'm writing from who I am as a person. And like you said, you acknowledge that without spell check, you might not even post on Facebook. You're very mindful of what you send in text message. And my reading teacher from 7th grade can attest. She's actually my friend on Facebook, Miss Morris from Benjamin Franklin, Teaneck, New Jersey, right? That I was a slow reader and writer. And one of my editors said I should get checked for dyslexia because of the way that I write. And if I do, I probably only have a mild case of it, but I do know I learn in a different way. Right. That said, a lot of people who learn, let's say, outside of the box or non-traditionally, sometimes have issues where their confidence in writing and communicating is of a challenge. That doesn't mean that they're not good. That means that they just may take pay more attention to it, and that may even be better. So one of the things that I started doing very early on was when I would write, I could write a paper in college for days. Once I took freshman remedial English, I was an essayist, right? I could do my claim and come up with my 3 bullet points and my conclusion, and it was a wrap. And I could do, a 3,000 word paper in a day. That was easy for me. That was because I learned the format. So what I do with writing is I put it into formats. I come up with my story. Like, I have a story about a black leprechaun, right? What is going to go on with the black leprechaun? I'm going to think of something. I'll go sleep on it. I'll get quiet for a few moments and come up with an idea. That idea is good in my head, but as a second guesser, right, I'm going to run that idea past as many people as I can. I may tell a dude at the bar, you know what I'm saying? Whoever, just, if you want to listen, I'm going to tell you my idea. So then I work my story out and get that down pat. But mind you, throughout the development of that story, I've ran it past people. Next, I start to outline my story. How long is it going to be? Is it going to be a short story? Or is it going to be a novel? Is it going to be a comic book? Is it going to be a comic book series? Or is it going to be a film? I write in those 3 genres: comic books, novels, and film. So a story can be told in any of those genres, right? Or mediums. You just have to figure out which one you want to tell it in. So once I decide, okay, it's going to be a novel, how many words is the novel going to be? Then I break out. I usually like to try to keep my chapters around 3,000 words, which is roughly 10 pages, 9 to 10 pages. If I get the Holy Ghost, it may go to 4,000 words, but I like to try to keep it at 3,000. So for a 60,000 word book, that is about 20 chapters, right? 22, 23, there's nothing wrong with going over, but I try to keep it that way. The Harlem Shake novels are a little mass media. I'm trying to go smaller. So I do 40,000 words with them, which is about 13 to 15 chapters, depending on how many words I put in a chapter. So what I'll do is I'll outline that. Now, I don't necessarily show my outline to anybody because they're not going to be able to see, they're not going to really be able to understand
it's your process, right?
what I'm doing. Right. So that's my story. Now I put spaces on my outline and I print it out because I use that as a tinker. You know, as I write, I'm one of my characters ahead of them, but
we're having a little technical difficulty with the connection. Let's see. Hopefully we can get Jeff back. It's just a little technical bad connection. He's in the car driving up to Tallahassee doing some big things. So let's see if it kind of clears up a little bit. There you go. You're back, Jeff.
Yeah, let me know. All right, cool. So what happened with me is, you know, I would write that whole outline out. I will print it out, like I said, because sometimes my characters or my action gets a little carried away, and I want to expand an action scene, or it may be shorter than what it was. So I tinker my outline. Then I start writing my chapters. After I, you know, write each chapter, sometimes I'll give a chapter. Like I had a friend who read my first novel, every chapter as I wrote it. My wife and another friend, I used to email her each chapter as I went along. Now my wife does that, but I burnt her out, right? So now she likes to wait until the book is finished. So that's fine. But for me, I didn't mind that micro reassurance. You know what I'm saying? Do I still have your interest? Because understand, I might be a blabbermouth, right? As a writer, every writer has to be a blabbermouth. You think about how long a book is. A 60,000 word book is close to 16 hours worth of communication. So you got to keep somebody's attention for that long, you know?
Right.
It's not an hour and a half movie and you don't have moving pictures. It's just your words on paper being read in their head, and they have to draw the pictures that you give them the outlines for on paper. So you have to do a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, when I finish writing my chapters or whatever, my book, that's my beta readers, and they give me notes back, or it may not even give me notes, may give me just feedback. And then from there, I make the corrections and I send it to an editor. And that's really all it is. I allow my beta readers to hit me before I go to an editor, mostly because I'm self-published, and I let my beta readers know there's going to be some typographical errors. Even let me know about those. You know what I'm saying? Let me know about those. I'll make the correction. But I don't have the money to pay for an editor to edit my rough draft of it, and then for my beta readers to tell me something that really doesn't make sense and I need to really change. So I'd rather find that out before I send it to the editor, because editors are expensive. Now, mind you, editors do give a lot of great feedback, and it depends on, you know, your editor's area. Sometimes, you know, a lot of black editors edit books that black people write, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? And their experience with editing science fiction is not as versed as
it makes sense. Yeah.
So I've had to explore outside of black editors per se to get my works edited. Now, many of the mainstream editors, they may not know black dialect, you know, or black responses. So even though I'm writing in the future on another planet, my story is called Welcome to Boss Lady's Planet. She's still got to talk like a boss lady. I'm not writing Anakin Skywalker. They're not talking some old English. They might be drinking. They might be drinking old English, but they're not going to be talking old English. And I also want that vibe. So I have to be very creative in how I get feedback for my stories. So that's pretty much it.
So you literally have to chew the meat, spit out the bones kind of thing, where they come to you, and because you have to be well aware of who they are when they're reading what you're reading, because you have a genre that is underserved, let's say in the black community. So if you throw it into a black editor's hands, you're not sure they have access to the world that you're in. So you might have to kind of like, okay, let me take what they offer, but now I have to have like a second set of eyes that are more in that lane. You know what I mean? So you need, it's almost like you need one for the culture and one for the material. You know what I mean? That's interesting. All right, that's cool. I like that. I have another question now. My follow-up question is, so this is a funny thing that I used to hear like people make fun of like Mary J. Blige, and this is like a off-color comment. They used to make fun of Mary J. Blige and say stuff like, "Oh man, I liked Mary when she was on crack. I don't like this new Mary. She's not." And I didn't really understand what people were saying. I don't even think they understood what they were saying, right? But now when you kind of go down this weird trip, and this is where I kind of get very insecure because I'm like, are these feelings really artist feelings? I'm not an artist, but what am I going through? And it kind of whatever. And I get to get to the point. I realize that either my emotional state plays a huge role in how much art flows out of me, or how much writing comes out of me, or how much creativity comes out of me, period, right? And the one question I do want for you is examining your writing style and your history. Maybe you're a little too advanced for this particular question, but is there a time of day or are there periods of your week or your time that you're more creative, that you find yourself being more creative?
Okay. That is a different question than I thought you were going to go, because I definitely have an answer for that Mary J. Blige.
I am going to go there. I am going to go there. This is kind of a leading question. I will go there.
But in terms of me, kind of my mind is running 50 miles an hour. So I usually run off of, I piggyback off energy. So if I'm watching a movie, I'm thinking of another movie. If I'm reading a book, I'm thinking of another story. Sometimes those things happen. I also think when I am asleep and I'm at rest, but usually those are continuation thoughts.
Yes.
I won't get an idea for a different type of story when I'm asleep. Nothing out of the blue really happens. It's usually ideas that I go to sleep with that I elaborate on, you know? So I like to solve problems. If I come up with a catchy title, like I was watching this movie trailer that one of my former artists was in. The poet Mums that was in Oz?
Yes. Big guy. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, right. So I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he posted a movie that he was in, I think from 2019, Hover. And it was about drones. And I was like, man, what if there was a movie about drones becoming demonically possessed and trapping people in like a cabin or something, like they did with the tractor trailer trucks? Remember that movie where the trucks got possessed?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shoot, you know. So I may think of that when I'm watching his trailer, and then when I go to sleep, I may put that whole story together.
Wow.
But the idea came from me watching his trailer, from me talking to people, you know, whatever it is, that's where my new ideas come from.
I can completely agree with getting energy. And it's funny, it's like so all my writing is done, everything I've been doing, right? For both books, the first one I wrote and the one I'm currently writing, all my writing is done at 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
I don't know why it happens. I wake up like clockwork at 4:30 a.m. And luckily, you know, you have Google Note on your phone, and mine is littered with chapters and books, and it's like, holy cow, you know? And I get up at 4:30. Now, that leads me to the question about Mary J. Right. What I found is the times that I've been inspired to really go in are the times where I've actually put myself into like a certain emotional mind state, or an emotional, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm perfectly happy in a relationship right now, yet I will listen to music that is like Etta James at Last, or like something really heartbreaking to kind of get me in this, you know, like this creative flow. And I've always found it. And I thought about Mary J. I was like, maybe Mary J. just has to go to a dark place not necessarily crack, you know, that's the joke, but she has to go to a dark place mentally to get super creative. Or maybe there's people that have to go to a really high place. That's where drugs come in. Or some people have to go to a state of let's say bliss or a meditation state. And I always wondered. So you know, you being an artist, I'm curious to know, like, what do you think of that?
Well, I like the fact that you included a high place, because for me, I love the Mary J. Blige's "No More Drama in My Life" song, but her actual favorite song for me is "You Are My Everything," right? And that is one of her most happiest songs. It's probably the most happiest you can sing. You are my everything. So I think that trauma and problems don't have a monopoly on emotion, right?
Right.
However, as a people living in America, Black and brown people, many of us do not embrace happiness because our situation is still not happy. Like I posted about this maybe last week, where people will say, why the, you know, now I'm in curse, right? Why the F you smiling all the time? What the F you so happy about? You know what I'm saying? Wipe that grin off your face. You ain't serious. You know what I'm saying? And they play a hate on happiness. But I'm glad you included it, because I think happiness and sorrow are both can be extreme emotions. So I think for a creative person, you just need to go to that. I wouldn't like to say extreme, but that uncommon place, because you need to write something that is uncommon. You know what I'm saying? You're coming up with something new. So you either got to go to that new high or that new low that's unexplored, because everybody lives in the middle. They see the middle every day. You know what I'm saying? So
it's like
you got to go.
Feel. It's like you have to feel. You know what I mean? You have to feel something, whether it's passion, like you said, whether it's on the high end or the low end. It can't be down the middle. Down the middle is rarely where great things happen. It's funny how you say that, right? Down the middle is where rarely where great things happen. It's always on the extremes, whether it's change or whether it's creativity or whether it's like a boxer. The greatest boxers were found in group homes and in detention centers and in like these really poverty, you know what I mean? Or they had the most, or they had Olympic pedigree where they were found at, you know, they were bred and born to be boxers. It's like always on the high. It's never somebody who kind of boxed. I kind of tried it. I kind of liked it. It's either or. So it's always on the extremes, which you're kind of leading into another conversation. And you posted something today on your Facebook, right? And I agreed. I was like, wow, that's exactly. Would you want to share that about the feelings about what you posted?
Which one was it? The Miami guys?
No, the one I talked about feelings, about emotions. You said something about
crying.
Yes. About feelings.
Right. Yes. Well, both of them connect, right? My post today was really a continuation of what I posted yesterday. But to set it off, I have to give it its props. Back in December, I lost my barber. Okay, he was 47 years old, very much like me. He was a migrant from Detroit, Ohio area, and he was just a very happy guy who felt the need to make other people happy. So when he came in the room, he led with a smile, he led with a joke, he led with something, but it wasn't negative, right? And he passed away through a drug overdose.
Oh.
And I didn't know it until 25 days later. And, you know, no, it was 17 days later. And I don't go in for a haircut every week, you know. I'm older, my hair doesn't grow as much, but I used to stop in the barbershop, you know, in between, you know, a couple times a month outside of me getting a haircut, and we would talk, right? So I didn't find out till later that's what happened to him. He overdosed on drugs, and You know, his wife was telling me he doesn't tell people that he had a lot of issues. And I just felt like I was an underused friend. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't want people to tell you all their problems, you know, and that's cool because I understand it can be a lot. But damn, sometimes you would have been like, I could have taken a little bit of that weight off of him. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit of that weight. I might not have been able to take everything, but shoot, use me a little bit, you know, and cry on my shoulder, because I'm a type of dude that I knew him enough that he could have cried, and I wouldn't judge him, and I wouldn't judge any guy on that any more than I judge women, because men have a lot of pent up emotions. Like Michael Basin said, you know, we cry in the dark. Yo, you gotta stop that crying in the dark, because even if you wait to cry, I think somebody said they cry in the shower, you know, when they got a breakdown. Sometimes it's just hard to do that. And I, in 2018 was a very tough year for me. Or it's 2019, sorry, 2019 was a very tough year for me. And I had, you know, a breakdown where I was just crying, you know, right. Anything was hitting me. You remember that movie with the wrestling family in England?
Yeah.
You know, fighting
the Rock was in it,
The Rock produced that about wrestling, and and I watched it twice, and I cried both times. You know, and that was uncustomary. I was 51, you know, and life was hitting me. You know, they call it midlife crisis, but I maybe cried a couple of times before that, but this was like a season of tears, and I just embraced it. And I remember, you know, being very sensitive. I would hear people say, you know, women around me, "Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, I can't say that to you because you're sensitive." Well, I say, well, what the heck do you want? You know, a robot? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. When you tell me your problems, don't you want me to understand your problems? So now you want me to be sensitive to you, but when it comes to my problems, I have to be sensitive to myself as well. I can't be you know, insensitive. Yes.
Yeah, no. I talk about this actually a lot, man. This is something I talk about a lot. I do a cast with Jesse Briggs from Hardcore Dads, and it's one of the things that we're really, really working on. It's actually a chapter in my book. It's it's a 5-step guide to taking the toxic out of masculinity. You know, at the end of the day, the only thing that I consider masculine energy is the willingness and the work that you put in to take care of your family. That's it. What falls within that realm, what you have to do that or accomplish that, that's on you. But that energy is the only energy I consider masculine. And I find that a lot of men feel exactly what you feel, where we can, you know, we're usually very vulnerable with the woman we love, with that one woman that we love. But outside of that, we're kind of in a trap. We're kind of trapped. We don't really share. We don't over communicate. We don't talk about our feelings and our emotions. And what's been found is that that's why a lot of men die before women at 65 years old. Guys are killing over of a heart attack, and we don't know why. And the truth is, that's because instead of sharing and getting these things off your chest, all that anxiety, all that extra energy just stayed pummeling at your heart, you know? And I think these conversations, right? I was actually going to label this this conversation we were having, taking the toxic out of masculinity, one conversation at a time. But I also remember, you know, we have a lot to talk about as far as the creative process. So I labeled it, we talk about the process, you know? But this is a great conversation to have and to continue to have and keep that dialogue going, letting men know, hey, listen, brother, we can look at each other and say, yo, are you okay? And you look at me and be like, no. You know what I'm saying? And not me judge you, because as kids growing up, right? And this is not acceptable behavior anymore as men, but as kids, the minute you said something sensitive, you knew one of your friends was going to be pussy right away. He was going to call you a name or call you out, you know what I'm saying? Call you another derogatory name right away. And I'm hoping go ahead.
How about this? You know, and I'm very open with it too. How about you don't even have a friend that calls you a name, but but you call yourself the name. You know what I'm saying? Because you have your own definition of what manhood is, and then you start to self-doubt yourself, and you don't even know. It's like I'm a school teacher, and I've been working with young people for 30 years since I was young, right? And I have men that share sexuality, and a lot of their questions come from their answers that they've given to themselves based upon their behavior and their own opinion about their behavior. So they may cry, they may feel pain, and they say to themselves, well, damn, I must not be a man if I'm crying. And it's hard to deal with those things because you don't even hear people say them.
Yeah, you know, a lot of it comes from conversations that men have with women. Not all women, but a lot of it comes with conversations that men have with women, because you're constantly hearing things like, if a man is, it's funny. It's like, if a man is too nice, oh, he's too nice. Oh, he's too whatever. And you're like, what? Like, I don't get that. Why? Why do you think he's too nice? No, the other day, he's just so sensitive. And you're like, are you kidding me? That's one of the qualities you look for, because that's one of the qualities that you're going to need later on down the line when life gets tough, or you have problems. You want that sensitivity, but they make you feel like you need to be Tupac to be in a relationship, you know? And you're like, no, that's not. And it's one of those things where it could be twofold. It could be, are we putting that on women and claiming that that's what they are, or are they really like that? We don't know. I don't know where the line ends. You know, it could be that we have this preconceived notion of what a man is, what society has told us it is. So we just assume that that's what women want, and that's how we approach them. And what they really want is vulnerability. They want us to be open with them.
Well, here's the thing. I talk about it because the area that I try to interject into helping people in society is through dating, right? I'm the
Say it again. You're breaking up. Say it again. You're breaking up.
Where I like to interject in the conversation of helping society, improving men, improving women, is through dating. So I call myself, Yo Jeff, I'm the hip hop dating coach, right? And one of the things that interact and engage when we're talking about dating is, like you said, what is a man? What is the role of a man? What does a man do? And we can say, oh, we don't know because many of our families don't have men in the families. And I say, yes, I agree with that. You know, we don't have that first role model. And, you know, many of us might have used Bill Cosby, Cliff Huxtable as our example. And I say, that's beautiful. I have no problem with that. However, the other thing is our ability to express our manhood is a question. When you bring up Tupac, I always think of entertainers in general and athletes. These are the two areas that Black men get to be able to express a range of emotions. They get to be frustrated. They get to be happy when they win that ring. They get to be mad when they rapping and they're expressing their manhood. But the term emasculation then comes around when you look at, say, Kwame, who won The Apprentice, the first Apprentice, the Black guy. Now we see a Black man in a corporate setting. Now it comes with a whole bunch of rules and barriers. If you talk too much, now you're scaring people, you're aggressive. If you get angry, you're out of control, you're fired. So now to learn how to fit into the corporate environment, you have to emasculate yourself.
You got to put yourself, right, because it comes from that stereotype. The stereotype of the ancient Black man.
Right. And you can't cry because that's not strong. You got to be that Tommy Lasorda, but you can't be a Tommy Lasorda because that's white privilege to be getting up in people's face and screaming like that. What Black man in a business environment can go Tommy Lasorda? Nowhere. So that becomes a self-conditioning process that overlaps into your regular life. So not only do you behave like Barack Obama on the job, can still behave like Barack Obama. You have fully contained your masculinity. It's almost like we say, "Damn, Barack, when you gonna really get mad, son?" And it's because
that's actually been one of the knocks on him. Go ahead. That's actually been one of the things that I've heard, where it's like, you're the smartest man in the room. Why don't you show some balls? You know what I mean?
Right.
Where you don't realize he's in a position where, he's in a position where if he shows balls, it comes off as anger because of the stereotype that's followed. Not in all obviously, we have plenty of friends and family or people around us that don't have those thoughts, but there is a section of the population that when a man, women too, when a black man or a black woman comes off as overly or steps up and shows that angle of them, they take it as aggression, And I think that he was very conscious of how he approached his position, and that was something that weighed on his mind. He said, "I can't be that angry guy because then people be like, you see, look, we said it, look, and they'll call him out, But it leads me to the next thing. You talk about I'm going to bring it back to self, right? And it kind of goes back to the writing process. I feel like that my brain, right? While I was so I went through this process. I'm going to call it what it is. I was depressed. Now, here's the crazy thing. Yeah, here's the crazy thing. Nobody around me, no friends, no family, nobody knew I was depressed. Well, I'm going to take that back. My sisters knew. They knew, but it wasn't a conversation that was had. They kind of were like, something's up with Mike. Something's going on there. We don't know exactly what it is. They're not professionals. I'm not a professional. We don't know what it is, but there's something there because they know me the best, right? Outside of that, everybody around me, I was always having fun. I was dating. I was out. We share a mutual friend, always hanging out with her. Everybody's cool. Nobody knew what was going on with me. It wasn't until a conversation that I had, right? So with one of my sisters, that she pointed it out, and I was like, and then COVID really helped me kind of go into this meditation where I'm by myself in my house, and I just started thinking and working through. And instead of glossing over a lot of what I've been through, kind of really addressing it and kind of working through, trying to seek that professional help, right? Well, what I realized was my mind, the way it worked was, I felt like your brain, when you're in that state, it goes into repair mode, and it's basically saving your life. It's like, if I let this go, it's going to kill him. Let me save his life. So your brain dedicates all its energy, all its time, everything to saving your life and repairing that depression. It goes into that mode, right? So while you're in that mode, and again, I could be completely off on this, but when you're in that mode, it blocks up all these other rooms in your brain: creativity, love, ambition. It locks them all up. Like, whoa, we can't handle that. It's like when you have to go to the bathroom and you're hungry. It's like your appetite's going to have to wait because you have to run to the bathroom. You know what I mean? It's like it shuts down. It's the same way. I feel like your brain says, stop. No. Creativity, love, ambition, all that stuff has to wait until we repair. And self-preservation, we go into this repair mode. And then once it's repaired and you're out of this depression, all of a sudden, all those rooms are unlocked. And now you're open to find love. Now, all of a sudden, your mind has creative juices flowing out of you that you didn't know you had, right? And now your goals and your ambition are elevated because they've always been there, kind of, but now they're elevated and they're clear. A clear picture is painted for you of what you want out of life. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was living under this cloud, under this umbrella. And now look at me. That's gone. And all of a sudden, boom, creativity, whatever, right? And the point I'm coming to is, do you ever feel, right, like your brain, do you agree with what I'm saying? Is it one of those things where if you don't address, do you ever feel like your brain was freed up once you came out of that fog? Or were you just as creative when you were in that situation, let's say in 2019?
I had to be as creative because I was constantly working. And
Right.
I think a lot of it has to also do with what is your psychological cause for your depression. My depression was built around my economic situation.
Right.
And stopping to work would have even increased that. So
Oh, so
I
he's
had to
occupying
work,
your mind.
right? I had to work my way through my my low era, right? And I also say, for me, I don't even feel like I ever came out of it. I'm still in it, you know. Maybe you know how they say, what doesn't break you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes your body doesn't heal back to better than it was before. You know, you rip your meniscus, you've got a ripped meniscus for the rest of your life. And I think your brain is very much the same way. If you tear it too hard, it will repair, and you'll be able to use it again, but it's not the same. And I think that's one of the things that we have to be cautious with when we deal with depression, when we deal with stress. You don't want to allow yourself to get so much stress that you have a heart attack or you have a stroke. Because again, your body may heal itself, but it may not ever be the way it was before or better. So I challenge that, what doesn't break you make you stronger. If it doesn't break you, maybe it will make you stronger. But if it breaks you, then you are in a different conversation. And sometimes that depression is a break. Now, is it good? Yeah, in a sense, because you think of electricity. We have, what do we call? A circuit breaker. Now, a circuit breaker to me is how I look at depression or a breakdown. It didn't kill you. You didn't blow the circuit. You didn't destroy the wiring. You didn't mess your computer up, but you had a shutdown. You might
It
have
was
to
your
get
body's way of preserving life, right?
right. You might have to get a new fuse to put in there, and you have to unplug some things and stop doing so much. But you didn't kill yourself. You know what I'm saying? You didn't fry your hard drive. You're not dead.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so you got a second chance on it. So I understand what you're saying, and I do agree. But I do think sometimes you can blow a circuit. You can blow a head gasket.
Yeah. We do have some comments. Terrell Jane says this is what people need to do when they date, and he was referring to our conversation, the earlier conversation. Cecil Quinones, that flow of creativity is part of the healing process. Yeah, I agree. You're absolutely right. It definitely is. As you come out of a situation like my situation, as I came out of it, yeah, I kind of like Jeff. You say you leaned on work. You lean on work to kind of keep your mind busy, keep it going, kind of climb out of whatever you fall into. And
right.
I felt like the creativity gave my life purpose. It kind of gave me a targeted goal to aim at and kind of like drive to, you know what I mean? Which occupied my mind. Whenever I kind of was, let's say, slipping back into it, into kind of like the dark place or the sunken place, all of a sudden it'd be, boom, this burst of creativity where I'd start to write down my thoughts, emotions, and it leads me to the next part where I'm talking, and we could actually go back into the process. I'm writing a book now called The Aftermath, and this book, it's almost like I'm scared of it.
Wow.
To be honest with you, it's almost like I'm scared of it because it's very cathartic to write it, right? Because I went through these experiences, I felt them, and whatever. But there's some that I want to relive again. They were cool, it was a good time, whatever. And then there's some where I was in a dark place, man. And when I bring myself there mentally again, it's like, whoa, man, it's like a PTSD type thing, And it's I already see it. Like I blew through some chapters where it's like, boom, I went through it like it was easy. They flowed like water. And then there was some that it was like, I'm gonna have to hold off. I'm still not ready to talk about that. Right, or I'm still not ready to touch on that because it's so personal or it hits home so hard. you know. And do you ever find, let's say, because you put a lot of social justice things in your books, or you talk a lot about political, you take a lot of like some political angles in some of your books.
Right.
Is there ever a time where you kind of like look at a subject and you're like, damn, that's a tough one to talk about, or that's a hard one to make clear to the people? You know what I'm saying? Especially with the way you think about it, where you don't want to come off too harsh, or you don't want to come off too one-sided, or are you okay with just coming from your point of view only?
Yesterday we talked about pen names, right? And I said, people who use pen names, first of all, they're lying because that's not their name. But why are they lying about their name? Mostly because they want to capture a different audience, or sometimes because they don't want to be connected to what they're writing. And I have a story that I thought of when I thought of my first film, Holla If I Kill You. I came up with about 4 titles. Holla If I Kill You, Gold Digger Killer, Rashida the Zombie Killer, and then I came up with this other one called Boxed In. And Boxed In is a story about a transvestite serial killer. And having worked in Miami in HIV prevention, which I did for 3 years, and I'm still on call with them if ever they need me. When COVID is over, I do big programs. But I used to be in direct counseling sessions with gay Black men and men struggling with their sexuality. And the things that I heard and my opinions about them were so unique that if I put I personally feel if I put my name on book, including them in that story, I would be canceled. It would dominate my Facebook page. It would reshape my persona. And this is stuff from 10, 15 years ago that I was thinking. I still haven't written it. I'm getting closer to writing it now, but I still may use a pen name. And I think that, that's where we are in terms of sometimes our ideas can be a little too controversial, but as a writer, we still want to get it out. We still push that conversation to the world. So
yeah, I'm learning that. I'm learning that now. It's like I've become a lot more transparent as far as like much more comfortable in my skin. I'm not afraid to talk about. I try to steer away from politics. I still only because on the internet right now it's just so toxic. And don't get me wrong, I definitely put my opinion out there. But as far as like in my writing right now, I haven't gone that angle. It's just not in me creatively to kind of go that way. But like, I'm definitely being a lot more vulnerable as far as like who I am, what I've been through, what I'm open to admitting. You know what I mean? Like there was years where like there was years where I wouldn't admit how wrong I was in a situation that I experienced. You know what I mean? Like my marriage, when I was married, how bad I was, what kind of man I was, right? I kind of glossed over it. No, I made excuse after excuse on why and no, whatever. And then it's not till now where I'm like, listen, man, I'm writing this book because I know what it's like to mess up. I know what it's like to mess up. And I've also have a lot of positive, beautiful relationships around me. I'm able to see what works. You know, I've recently been involved in the dating part of a relationship and the courting and with somebody that you see a future with. So there's a lot of different angles, and I'm kind of in that route where I stick to kind of what I know and whatever. So I haven't really ventured out into anything too controversial. But I always like to hear people's opinion, because I'm sure at some point I'm going to say something or I'm going to write something that the masses don't agree with. You know what I'm saying? Or a small population doesn't agree with, and like you talked about, is going to try to cancel. You know what I mean? Well, go ahead, Jeff.
I tell you, politics kind of snuck up on me. You might think it's funny. Of course, I'm very political. But I just posted today a little bit of my opinion on Miami and living in South Florida, where between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. I grew up in the 80s in New York area where everything was on limits. You know what I'm saying? Nothing was off limits. We could talk about your nose. We could talk about your shoes. We could talk about how you talk, how you walk. And I look at things that are political as not the only things that are are controversial. You understand? So in my stories, I have a story right now where I want to write that I'm developing, an alien invasion story, right? And of course, my aliens are going to be as diverse as Earth. So there's going to be majority people of color. I'm not doing an all-white space because white people are only 10% on the Earth. So how am I make them 100% in space? That doesn't make sense. So they come to Earth with an ultimatum, right? And I want to know what that ultimatum is. Are they going to end racism? Are they going to end class discrimination? How do they go about it? All of that might not be political, right? Because everybody's not asking that question. But at the time they read it, everybody will have an opinion about it. After the book comes out, everybody will have an opinion about it. So when I look at my stuff, it may not be Trump, Obama, flat Earth, or round Earth, right? But I'm raising a new question. So now,
right, thought-provoking, right, thought-provoking,
right. So people will end up having a question about it. You know what I'm saying? And cancel culture questions are just questions that people have had long times to think about, and they now developed opinions about the people that have certain answers. So, like, if I am writing before the alien invasion, that aliens will come and, you know, get rid of racism and classism, years down the line, after everybody has answers for that question, they may say, oh, you're one of those people that think aliens are going to come down and, you know, end racism. You understand what I'm saying? Because now we've advanced the answers so much that now people don't only have answers, they have opinions about the people with answers.
The answers, right. That raised the question. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So I think the easy way to stay away from controversy, because everything is political, right? Everything is political, is to ask new questions and, you know, and push the conversation past people's regular answers. However,
right. Provoke thought, absolutely.
Right.
Provoke
and
thought.
move the conversation further.
Okay. Well, Jeff, we're kind of running up on the clock here. So what I would like for you to do is go right ahead, man. Tell us what you're doing, what you're up to, what projects you have in play, what to look out for. We're going to post the link at the bottom of the video with where you can find Jeff's work, where you can find his books, some of his movies. Like I said, Jeff, tell us what you got coming up, what projects, where they can find your work. You know, I also highlighted, featured Jeff at my Art for Art's Sake segment on my Dropping Dimes page. You can see his bio, some of the books that he has, and some of the links. You could also see them there on Dropping Dimes. So, Jeff, go ahead. Let us know what you're up to. What do you got going on?
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me. I always forget how cool a person you are, because I didn't value how easy certain people were to talk to when I lived up north, because it was like so many. You could be like, I ain't got time. Yeah. Living in South Florida, I'm like, yo, who am I going to invite? Who am I going to go hang out with? Who am I going to watch the fight with? You know, so you're definitely one of those people that I appreciate. And, you know, maybe up north, we might not have really valued each other. But
Jeff,
down
just
here,
not to interrupt you. The crazy part about Jeff, right, is I was at the premiere. How long ago was that? Of Gold Digger Killer in Teaneck. How long ago?
2005.
Oh five. In 2005, I was in Teaneck. What theater was that in Teaneck over there?
The Cedar Lane movie theater.
He premiered. One of my very, very, very good friends, Shatara Curry, was starring in the movie, and she invited me out. And I remember going to the theater. It was packed. Jeff came out. He did a little presentation. We watched the movie. It was very good. A lot of people clapped it up, especially because we saw what we were trying to accomplish in the movie because he talked about it before. And I kind of let it go. All right, whatever. Who would have known 15 years later that I'd be running across my buddy Jeff from the movies? Well,
definitely thank you. And then we also got Kane College familiarity as well. So we
absolutely.
got that. All right. So now, what do I have coming up? I mean, I have 3 movies that are in the can that can come out any minute, but because of the COVID apocalypse, they have been pushed back. So I'm gonna still shout those out. I did a sequel to my movie, The Death Pledge, and that's called Conjuring Baba. That was shot in Miami. I did another movie that I'm kind of waiting for Jordan Peele's movie to come out. My movie is called The Black Nun. It's a low-budget movie, beautiful, shot at my house. And then I have another movie that was supposed to come out in August last year, and that's called Cutout. So I'm working behind the scenes to get all 3 of those movies out. But the good thing that I have coming up in COVID, I've started to turn to crowdfunding for my own projects. And some of the hardest things to produce because of how you get your money back were comic books. Comic books are very hard. They're not extremely expensive, but because you get your money back $5 to $10 at a time, and you have to go to conventions where you have to pay for tables and hotel room, it's very hard to get your money back. I have a crowdfunding comic book.
Repeat that, Jeff. Repeat that only because it broke up a little bit.
No problem. I have a crowdfunding comic book coming out around Martin Luther King weekend, all through Black History Month, called The Twa Man, The Black Leprechaun. And if, in the pre-promotion, I'm just going to say, in London, a lot of the Black British people have stories about pygmies from Africa being brought over to Ireland, to England, and how they operated. I speculate about that, but I also take the Irish legend of the leprechaun and make him black, because I actually believe they were, right? And it wasn't just one person. And also what we call magic, or what they call magic, is today's science. What they called magic years ago is science today. So my leprechaun is like, in my universe, he's a combination of like Doctor Strange. And that's how I look at him. So in this comic book, he's going to be dealing with kidnapped women out of Nigeria and sort of the Arab-African relations in Nigeria. I'm also going to deal with the Twa people, who a lot of Black people don't know about. They were a culture that existed before the Egyptians. So the first god of the Egyptians was a god named Bes. The god was both male and female, and it was a Twa person. It was a pygmy. It was 3 feet tall. So that's very interesting, because we held the Egyptian culture at the height. And now it turns out they may have worshipped Twa people. Right. So that is very interesting. And I'm going to bring all of that into a fun Jeff Carroll style story. And that comic book project will be launching around Martin Luther King weekend. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to try out the pitch.
Where could they find the work? Where could they find? Where do you have your stuff?
Well, The Death Pledge is my only movie that's out. So you have to Google it. It rotates on different platforms. It may do good on Fandango, then it may move to Xbox, it may move to YouTube. It rotates around different platforms on the internet. And then I have books on Amazon. All of my books are on Amazon, Jeff Carroll, or you can Google a title, and that'll bring you to my other works. And then this particular Black Leprechaun comic, look for it on my page and get ready around Martin Luther King weekend for the Kickstarter, because I use Kickstarter as my crowdfunding. And it'll be as cheap as $10. You'll get a comic book and a poster.
Fantastic. Jeff, it's been a pleasure. Look, like I said, man, you've in the one conversation we had yesterday, I literally slept on it and just thought about a lot of what you said. And you'll never really know the effect that the conversation had on me. As far as like, it's almost like you said, you kind of like seek validation, and when you seek and you get it from somebody that you respect, and they tell you, no, you're on the right path, man. Those feelings are natural, they're normal. You know, keep going, keep pushing. You're all right. It's not out of the ordinary to feel that way. I've felt like that before. It kind of gives you that extra push to say, all right, I'm on the right track. I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And I really want to thank you for your time. I know you're on your way to Tallahassee, so this isn't something that you just you actually took time out to sit with me. And the truth is, not often are people that are in the game, kind of like moving in the game, willing to step back and find somebody who's just kind of an up and comer, kind of starting a small little page and little getting just very few views, that's willing to come down and talk to somebody and kind of share his knowledge and basically what he's learned in the game until now. So I really, really appreciate it. Like I was telling Chanel, you were definitely one of the people that when I got on and I started doing these casts, is I really got to talk to Jeff. Not only because I find you fascinating, I think you're super interesting, but on top of all that, I know you've had a lot of experiences and a lot of things going on, and you have very unique views. Even in the way you make me laugh, you're very unique, and even in your sense of humor. So once again, man, I want to say thank you. Appreciate your time. Hopefully, we could do it again, man. I mean, I think that you and I, we could have easy 1 hour conversations. That's not even a problem. So,
right.
Next time you're free.
I haven't even checked out your book yet, and I would love to share with you my book, The Hip Hop Dating Guide. So when I get back,
let us know. Where can they find the Hip Hop Dating Guide? Where can they find that?
The ebook, the PDF is on Amazon. So if you go on Amazon, that's my nonfiction book. My science fiction books dominated because I have more of them. But my Hip Hop Dating Guide, I'd love to talk to you about that. And then also the Harlem Shake series, right, is 3 books so far. I'm doing it wrong.
You're good, right there. You're good, yeah.
3 books so far. The 3rd book is the last one I did. It's kind of my favorite. And I would love to talk to you about science fiction speculation.
That's
we need to go there.
Absolutely. I want to talk about that genre. And I know that you're one of the leading voices in that. And I would love, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it open, right? But we are going to let the audiences know that we are going to talk again. We're going to talk again, all right?
I wish you the best luck, and, tag me, share my platform, whatever.
Absolutely.
I'm down for all of that.
Absolutely. So my book is called Shallow River to Deep Ocean, A Man's Guide to Understanding His Woman by First Understanding Himself. It's definitely a deep dive into a man looking inside himself to find the answers that he seeks. A lot of times we put too much power in the hands of our partner, thinking that that's where the happiness lies. And the truth is that in our behavior, in our actions, in the way we fulfill our partner, we will find the answers. So I hope people get a kick out of reading that and see where I was coming from and really, really gain from it. It's a book meant for women to read and give to their husbands, maybe as a guide, and a book for men to read it and have an understanding of walking a mile in a woman's shoes. So once again, Jeff, thank you. I appreciate it. And we are out of here. Thank you, brother.
All right. Peace.